Repping Yadat Clothing, Yadat Entertainment. On the line, I have Spank, a.k.a. Lil MoBill. How are you, man?
All right, how you doing, dude?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. Appreciate you joining the show, dude.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. Let's go all the way back, dude. Let's talk about your upbringing, and we'll get to where you are today. But tell everybody where you grew up.
I'm from Wilmington, California. South Bay, Harbor area, Los Angeles. Where the water runs. Close to Long Beach, next door to Carson.
Yep. And what was your upbringing like coming up? Mom, dad around?
Yeah, mom's around. She passed away later on cancer. Pops in the street, gambler, into drugs, running, everything that comes with that. And then most of my life, he was in and out the pen and county jail. So my stepfather was around since about 88, all the way up to my, to mom's passed away. But me and Pops, we straightened out. He doing good, you know what I mean? But grew up in the Harbor area and went to school with Dodson Junior High, Cooper, Wilmington Junior High, Avalon Continuation. Went to Carson Eagle Tree, and most of them was just like a month at a time though, because I was going to jail. So this was like before and after when I got out wide and stuff. But from Wilmington to Dana Strand Village Housing Project, they tore down now, but that's the home of the Waterfront, and that's where I was brought up at.
Okay, talk to us about Wilmington in the 1980s.
I ain't from the 80s yet. I'm from the 90s.
Oh, the 90s. Okay. Talk to me about the 90s.
In the 90s, everybody was selling dope. Gang banging was at its all-time high in the 90s, as you know. I started banging before the truce, so I got a little dose of that, but I was in jail. But our hood back then was like a mixture. Black gang, but we got a lot of Samoans, and we had a lot of Hispanics. And most of the Hispanics now, they West Side Weemots now. But back in the day, the Hispanics that were around the project area was from Waterfront. They was Pirus before they turned Serrano.
Okay.
And we over there in next to Carson and all that, and we hung out with like the Cabbage Patch Pirus, the Scottsdale Pirus, the Scott Parks. They has a hood called Chronicles. We kind of allies with all them, and our enemies back then was like the Dodge City Crips and San Pedro, the Harbor City Crips, the 190s, the SOSs, and like back then we got along with the Weemots that was from the West Side because like we shared the projects together in the whole West Side of Wilmington. So back in them days, whoever would shoot at us, if we didn't have none, they'll shoot back for us. You know what I mean? Or some of them brothers was from Waterfront, and when a couple of them brothers was from Weemont, so it was never no issue until later on down the line. We'll get to that. But back then Waterfront was like a mixed gang. We got a lot of Samoans though, still around to this day.
Okay. When did you start gangbanging?
About 90, late 90, beginning 91.
Okay. How old were you?
About 13 going on 14.
Okay. Take me back to that day, man. What were you going through mentally? Were you ready for this?
Yeah, because like my pops, he the one brought me down here. I didn't grow up in the project. So I lived, the moms had like a little place in Carson, Torrance, San Pedro, so we was moving around a little bit. But I was messing up in school. So one day my mom called Pops, was like, you need to come pick him up and show him something because he ain't listening. So my dad, he picked me up and took me down to the hood. He took me to the project in Wilmington. And then when I got down there, we went to the street called Craven Street, right across the street from the project. And my big homie, Boy One, he stayed on that block. So when I got over there, I was just seeing a gang of smokers. You know what I mean? A lot of people selling dope and everybody outside. And it was just something I ain't never really seen like that. But as that same day was going on, I seen like two Hispanic dudes I knew from school that was from Waterfront already. And they was talking to my pops. And he was like, yeah, my son over there sitting on the porch. And they looked at me. It was my homeboy, Ant. I knew him from school. He was from my hood back then, but he don't bang no more. He was like, what's up with it? You know, he was like, come on over here with me. So we pushed over to the project. And then I told Pops I'll be back. We pushed over to the project, and then we started walking around. And then as we get to the projects, we have like 1, 2, 3, 4. Each parking lot, we call them circles in our hood. So there's like first circle, second circle, but everybody hang in the third circle. That's like the main dope spot where we all hang out and politic at. And then we started walking through all the parking lots. And then when we got to the third circle, I seen a couple other people I knew from school, but they was already banging and everything. They was just young. And I started going over there for like a week straight. You know, after they showed me around and showed me everybody. I started going over for like a week straight. And then once I went over there, there's my homie named Spanky from Scottsdale Piru, of course, and they used to be in the projects with us, a lot of Scottsdale. So it was like, yeah, when y'all go put on MoBill's son, he been out here every day. And then my homie Tito was like, he gonna get put on soon. Watch, someone just gonna come outside and he gonna be ready. And then that same day, they came out. A gang of homies was outside, but like, we finna do this today. We deep enough now. So they was like, you ready? I just took off my hoodie and just handled my business, squared up with like 5 homies at once, and got put on. Had a black eye. Went back home. Told mom I got jumped at school earlier, and then we left it like that for the rest of the week. And then after that, I was coming to the hood. Still, the next day, I got put on with a black eye. But now this time when I'm coming around, the big homies is outside. They put me on with dope sacks. You know what I mean? Back then, my dad was on drugs, so he was kind of outside with it. You know what I mean? So once the homies gave me a dope sack, and they told me what a 10 rock was, 20 rock, this was how much you give them for 50, this is what you do for 100. I started getting my little sack together out there, and I started selling dope, running around with everybody. That's like, our hood was mainly like a real dope project. Like, you know, the harbor area, you know, the ships are down there, so you already know what time it is.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of drugs going on back there, so I'm selling dope every day outside, every day. Eventually, I started running away from home because, you know, the homies was telling me at 2 in the morning, like, I made 500, 600 at 2 in the morning. You know, there wasn't no one outside. So I started, like, staying out trying to get my 500, 600, 700. And once I started running away from home, I just started running with a different crowd in the projects in the hood. And then the crowd I ran with, they was more like, you know, jackers, shooters, and they was like, you know, too much hustling going on with them. So I just started robbing. And then once I just started robbing, I had like 8, 9 robberies. And then during the time I was running away from home, this the same year, you got to think about it, this the same year I got put on. I'm in the hood for like 6, 7 months. But at the same time, I'm in the hood every day. It wasn't a day I missed. You know what I'm saying? So it felt like I was there 2, 3 years. So one day, there's this police officer named Cabrillo. He pulled up on me and the homies. We was at this park called Wilhall Park. Now, that's a Westside Weemoss Park, but we be over there, too, back then. And he pulled up on the grass. He was playing Simon Says with me. And he was like, hey, son, Lil MoBill. I was like, what's up? I'm like, what you doing? I'm like, chilling. Because he had already took me home 2, 3 times prior from running away. He's like, I want to play a game with you. I'm like, what game we playing? And he's like, we going to play Simon Says. And then he just said, Simon says this, Simon says that. And then he said, Simon says he's being arrested for a lot of robberies. And then he just handcuffed me and put me in the police car. And then I told my homegirls, you know, if my mom started to, you know, let her know they took me to jail. And then next thing you know, I was in the Harbor Division, getting ready to go to my first time to LP.
What year did they tear down the projects, and what's there now?
Yeah, the last days of the project was probably 2010, and they be building with like some condominium looking, nice looking apartments. You know what I mean, with cameras around them. But like back then, and most of the people that was black and Samoan, they moved, they gave them vouchers in Palmdale, Long Beach, and everywhere outside of Wilmington. So now Wilmington is like 95% Hispanic now. You know, the homies are still out there. We still have like hood days every year, and You know, the homies, they got another hood out there that we allies with called the Eastside Pain, Ghost Town Blood. They still around. And then, you know, but majority of that is we're the only two black gangs in Wilmington, Waterfront, Ghost Town. Wilmington's one of them cities like you can't hang outside 3, 4 deep. You gonna get shot. You gonna die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody like hang in the house. And then Wilmington's one of them cities like when it get dark and you outside, you subject to be a victim quick. You know what I mean? Because I got shot going up over there. You know what I mean? I got hit 11 times at once. You know what I'm saying? So Wilmington always been a city with violence and a lot of shooting going on, and a lot of creeping and back doors.
Well, let's talk about your journey, and I say that respectfully. You know, behind bars. If you could put a number on it, you know, how much time from juvie hall to prison would you say you've given to the system?
Shit, 91 and 95. I stood out 6 months. 91, 95. I was in YA, and then stayed out 6 months. 95, I went to the Bay, called a robbery, and then went to San Quentin. So I did 6 on that. So 91 and 95 was gone. Stayed out 6 months. Got shot. Went to the Bay, called 6 years, and then got out. Went to I did probably about 20, 23, 24 years.
Wow.
Yeah, all together.
More than half your life, from what it said.
I didn't have no prom and football games. I didn't have none of that. That was a youth story for all that. I learned how to read and write in there.
Damn. Talk to me about Los Padrinos in the early 90s.
Oh, yeah. So my first time when I went was the only time I went because that's when I went to Y. But when I first got there, I only knew about like Blood and Piru, since that was like around our area. And then there used to be a few LA gangs used to come up to our project. So when I got to LP, you go to the receiving unit. Back then was A and B. You go there and then shower up. They give you your little clothes and stuff. You get your little bed and you stay there for a day or two. And the cool thing about it back then, when I went to LP, me and the SA named Hefty from Westside Wilmington, he RIP right now. We went the same day in the same police car to LP. So he already been there a couple of times and been to camp. So I was asking him questions about LP. Like, he's just like, man, just stay down, fool. Any enemy you guys just get down and just stay down. You know what I mean? He said, fool, we gonna ride this together if we on the same unit. I'm like, okay, it's good then. That's all I need to hear. So we get to AB, and then we spent the night there for receiving for a night. And we got in there about 1 in the morning. By the time we woke up, ate breakfast, they was sending us to L&M, me and him together. So when we got to L&M, we went to go pick up some kids from school. So we was in line movement. And when we got back from line movement, a dude from Longo hit him up, like, where you from, fool? He was like, Westside Wingbox. And he was like, Eastside Longos, Playboys. And then Hefty just took off on him. Boom, 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 boom. So they went to the box immediately. He wasn't even there 24 hours. So I'm like, okay, LP kind of turned up a little bit. So I started on L&M with, like, I met a homie from Brown's, and I met another homie. I forgot what. It was only like 2 Bloods. Back then, the Bloods wasn't deep in jail. You had to be real hard to, like, walk around like that and have your name back in them days. Like, right now, we deep. There's hella Bloods. You find 30, 40 homies in one place. You know what I mean? Back then, it was like, if you was 2 or 3 deep, that was considered a good number. You know what I mean? So I sat on L&M for like about a good 2 weeks, and I had so many robberies that I was still young, but I was tall. They sent me to EF in Orange. So now they got me in high power, and then that's why I had my first fight at. I got in with a dude named Tony from Q102 East Coast. I was on the basketball court. There was a dude named Lil Devil from Rolling 60s. He's the first dude I ever seen. He had every gang crossed that on his arms. He was tatted up with an afro. And then it was homeboy Baby Rosé. We was all on the same team. And he kind of passed the ball to the dude from East Coast and tried to test me, hit me with an elbow. And I said something to him, and he was like, we'll check it out when we get back in the day room. Once we get in the little day room, we shower, they give us a little night day room a little bit. I look at him, I take off on him. and then he kind of beat me down. You know what I'm saying? Dude named Stoney. I'll never forget that one. Dude named Stoney 2-1-2. He got the best of me on that. I didn't even get really too many hits after that one. We went to the box, came back, and then I'm going back and forth to court fighting these robberies, and then they finally came with a plea. Like out of 9 robberies, like you plead guilty to one, we go drop the rest. You can't go to camp. You can't go to placement because you got every robbery you had a weapon. So you got to go to YA. Now the whole time I'm in LP, everybody telling me I'm about to go to camp. Like, man, you about to go to Kill Patch. You ain't ever been to juvenile hall, like none of that. Woo, woo.
Oh, damn.
So I'm thinking the whole time I'm thinking camp, nothing. I'll be home 18 months. You know what I mean? And there's like 3, 4, 5 homies in camp right now to spread it out. So I'm hoping I'm landing where one of the homies is at. But I end up going to court. When you in the LP in Long Beach court back then, you walk through the hallway, you can see your family in the hallway before you hit the other tank to go to the courtroom. And I seen my mom, and she was shaking her head. So the DA already told her, well, he better take this, or he gonna get longer than that. So I ended up taking the plea, and they ended up giving me like 10 years youth authority. But see, youth authority, you can get hella years, but only do 2, 3 years. But they got up to 25 years old to hold you. You know what I mean? So I took the little plea, came back to LP, and then told everybody they sent me to YA. They gave me 10 years. And everybody's like, damn, nigga, 10 years? I'm like, yeah. So I stayed, that was on a Friday. So I went to LP. I went to YA that Monday. They rolled me up that Monday morning.
Okay, let's talk about YA. Where did you first land? Did you first land in Norwalk?
Yeah, got to go to Norwalk first.
Okay, talk to us about the process.
Okay, so when you get to Norwalk, you pull up in the little vans from Juvenile Hall. I think we picked up somebody from Central, and we kept going. But there was other vans there. Then I seen a big old LA County jail bus. I'm tripping off that, like, what the hell the county jail doing here? But then at this time, I didn't know it was 12 to 25 years old, right? So when we get off the bus, there's they got like 1, 2, 3. They got like 3 big old empty rooms with like a bench in them that's going along the wall. And they tell everybody to go in each room. Once you go in this room, you probably take a jail picture. Then you go in the next room, you talking to a psych ward or something. I run into a little homie. He was probably back there. He was probably like 4'11", 5 foot. His name was Lil Boom. He stuck his head out the window. He was like, "Where you from?" He was little, man. He looked like he was about 10, but he was probably 13 back then. I'm from Waterfront Piru. He was like Pasadena Squeaky Lanes. They call me Boom. I think he rests in peace now from what I'm hearing that Demetrius still. But he was a little young rider and a little shit starter. So I was kind of happy because everybody that's in my tank was clips or essays. You know what I mean? What really, I ain't hearing no blood. I'm trying to hear something. You know what I mean? So when you go through all the little tanks, you take your picture. You see the little dentist. You see all these little people. And then they give you your blue jeans. You get Say This, you blue jeans. You get like some fake Chuck Taylors. You get like a gray sweater and a white tee that says SRCC printed in the front. And then so as you walk, you go through the little control center. They tell you, get up and go to your unit. And you be like, somebody's going to be at the door. And I'm like, well, how do we get to where we going? Like, follow them lines. So it's like 10 of them. And then finally, you can see what the institution really looks like as you leave the control center. Because you walk in, you're seeing the unit Gibbs to the right. You got Pico to the left. You got Cabrillo to the left of Pico. That's the turned up unit where all the kids is at. Then you got Portola. Back then, Drake was open. That was the unit that had weight. And then they had Southern. So if you was, in the line room, if you was 12 to 17, you was going to Pico your first few days. That's the orientation unit. And if you was 18 on up, you was going to Gibbs. So as you walk, as they open up the door, it's like some brick buildings. And when you open up the door, there's some hard-ass doors to the right and hard-ass doors to the left, going all the way down to a control booth. And then there's a control booth. And then on the other side, it's the same thing. Hella doors, right and left on each side. As you walk in, Everybody's kicking on the door, hard as hell. Boom, 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 boom. New booty, new. They banging on you. It's like a movie. They banging on you as you walking down the hallway. You got your box. You just trying to hold your face straight. You looking left and right. You trying niggas is dissing. Fuck your hood. I don't know where you from yet. They just everybody talking shit as you walk to the down the thing. Then they set you in the day room with your box, and there was already like a couple of trustees out there. I met a dude named what's my boy's name? Nutty C. He was from 10 Line Gangsters out of Wack. He was pushing a broom, and he had asked me where I was from. I was like, I'm from Waterfront Piru. He was like, oh, you just got a Simone homie who just got here, just left to the other unit named Twin. He got red tattoos. I was like, yeah, he is. He was like, yeah, he just left today. He's on Cabrillo. He said, how old is you? I'm like, I'm 14. He was like, you about to go to Cabrillo too. You go see him, and you go hear everybody over there at night. I was like, damn. I'm like, all right, for sure. So when I have my box, they tell you what cell to go in. You stand there, you walking down the hallway. People asking you where you from. I'm standing in front of the man, that hallway looks terrible. So when they opened my door, I'm in the cell, and luckily it was a blood. It was the homie Lil Rob from Denver Lane, rest in peace. He was right there. He had been there for like a day or two before me. And he was just like, he just got here. He waiting to go to Cabrillo. And that's where we go be catching our fades at. He said, everybody over there on Cabrillo going crazy. That's a crazy unit for the young kids. And I was just like, man. So when you get in there.
Crazy, what does he mean by that?
I mean, fights in the shower, fights in the city. I mean, it's nonstop. The bell's always ringing over there. You know what I mean? They always running in the Cabrillo. He said, everybody over there on Cabrillo going crazy. That's a crazy unit for the young kids. And I was just like, man. So when you get in there.
Crazy, what does he mean by that?
I mean, fights in the shower, fights in the city. I mean, it's nonstop. The bell's always ringing over there. You know what I mean? They always running in the Cabrillo. So, but we on orientation unit. This Pico still. So, as you looking out the window, our unit where I was on Pico was facing the yard. So there's a yard side where you can see all the units, and there's a side where you don't see nothing. But luckily, I was on the side where I could see all the units walking the chair. And then Patola was walking by. And now this is still my first day. So people, as they was walking the trail, I just hear someone just yell out someone's hood, fuck your dead homies. Fuck such and such. Because it's quiet as they walking, so people just shaking their heads. They trying to turn around mean mug. So we call them cell soldiers. So that's what everybody did. I ended up doing that shit. I was one of the motherfuckers that used to do that shit all the time. I used to want to irritate my enemies anytime they walk by. So we used to call them cell soldiers. And I got into that shit later on. But I said, damn, what they doing? He said, man, they do that all day, man. That's all you go hear is someone just diss someone hood, dead homies all day. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, when do we come out? He was like, shit, you got a 3 days quarantine or 24-hour quarantine, so you can't leave your cell at all until you do quarantine for 24 hours. Coming from juvenile hall. And then once we get through that quarantine, I stood on Pico for like 7 days, and then they shot us to Cabrillo. And Cabrillo's where it's at.
Mm. Tell me about Cabrillo. What was your experience there, and specifically the ugly of Cabrillo? And
so there's one you did an interview with, L.A. Capone?
Yeah.
Okay, now that's where I met him at. His name is, we called him D-Rock back then. Him and my boy Lil Rob, they were co-defendants. And then, yeah, he came down there. He had that country voice and all that. I met him on Cabrillo.
Okay.
So when we get there, it's just everybody's small. I'm tall for my age, but everybody was just little. Everybody's mean mugging. People cussing out the staff as soon as you walk in. I ain't even got to my cell yet. It was like, I ain't got locked up. You make me lock up. Like talking to the police like that. Police twisting their arms up, throwing them on the floor. Police will put you in a full Nelson. It was just crazy. So they put me in the cell with an essay from MS-13. This is the first time I ever heard of them back then. So I don't know if they was freshly new or if they've been around. But he was a cell soldier. He was a cell soldier of mine. I had a homeboy that was next door. I actually talked to through the vent named Baby Clee Dog Chico, rest in peace, from Bloodstone Village. And we was in juvenile hall together. He was like, MoBill. I'm like, what? He said, man, I got a problem with your study from juvenile hall, man. He said, I want you to see that nigga. He said, that nigga, he said, this dude from MSA, he ain't gonna do nothing. And I jumped off the bus. Peter, bro, this is my first day over there. This is my first fight. I'm beating him up to the cell. The homies are laughing. Everybody yelling, kicking on the door. So when you fight, everybody kick on the door. The police can't hear who's screaming. You know what I mean? The dude was a little dude. And that's one thing about Cabrillo. When you get bored, you'll fight your celly. You'll take your celly's food, like at lunchtime. There might be sack lunches. You ain't going to eat again until dinner. You just take his food. Just like you ain't eating shit. Once he find out that he's a bitch and that he ain't moving like the way he's supposed to be acting, all that yelling out the window and you ain't living up to that, your celly start testing you. Then I used to just try to beat up my cellies and take their Walkmans if mine broke, take their little canteens, the little stuff we can get. And you just get bored because you got to think about it. We 14 years old, locked in the cell all day outside of going to town down there. And then so once you're in Cabrillo, we all used to sign up for church. And church would have you where you could get out the cell a little time. But people wasn't even going to church to learn. We was going to church just to see our homies. And then there was a dude named Black Blood. He was from PDL, from Pasadena, Denver line. And he was like one of the biggest dudes on the compound. And I used to chop it up with him. But I remember him and a dude named Blue Rag. I ended up seeing Blue Rag when I was in Sentinella in the hole. But they got down. And I never heard of Do Rock Crip. I didn't even know what that was. But they had rushed each other. And I said, these niggas, some two big old monsters squabbling in the middle of church. So after that, you start seeing people fight at church. You start seeing people flood their cells, like just get bored and just stuff their cells with hella sheets and just flood it so the staff could get mad. You used to see the staff go in the cell and just twist your arm up and everybody screaming. And I was right there when L.A. Capone was telling my women that S.A. shocked him up, go in the showers.
Yeah.
I said, you better watch it. The S.A. for to get you. And he didn't pay attention. The S.A. snuck his ass, too.
Damn.
But there used to be a lot of dope feeling, like when you walking in the chow hall, like you used to have to walk with your hands in pocket 4 across, right? So if you ain't looking, your enemy would dope pin you if he was just a foot or two behind you and jump out of line boom and dump for you. They used to have shit called what's that shit called? They'll run across the field because on the weekends we have like a little night yard and all the units would be outside playing basketball, baseball. People that was on Cabrillo, that was on the young unit, used to try to run on the other side to the older unit, try to rush their enemy. It used to be all like it was crazy, man.
Damn.
It was crazy. But we stood there for about. We stood at Nellis. We stood at SR for like 30 days, and then they shot us to the worst institution, which was Nellis.
Fred's place. Talk to us about Nellis and your experience there.
Well, you already hear about it when you're in Cabrillo, because most of everybody from there is going to Nellis or they going to OH. I was trying to go to OH close because I heard they had Nintendo games and it was way cooler. Nellis, you was just gonna be fighting. So when I was riding on the van, there was a lot of us going. It was my boy Spider, he was from Backstreet. This dude named China Dog from Levin Deuce Hoover. Who else? Dude named Seafish from A-Tray. It was a Tiny Squally. It was a gang of us. We was going to Nellis deep. We had all been on Cabrillo for all together. So we got in the van. It was probably about 10 of us. We get to Nellis. They put you on this unit called Truman when you first get there. You stay there for about 7 days. And the only thing you'll experience on Truman is going to Mr. Newman's class, which is the gang coordinator who tells you about Nellis and what you should and should not do. And you go work in the kitchen until you get moved to your regular unit. Now, I know that dude from, I think you went to Nellis with him. He told you about the whispering at the tables.
Yeah.
So that's a Nellis tradition right there. So when the first day I got to Nellis, they're like, when y'all get up tomorrow, y'all go work in the kitchen, man. And when you get in the kitchen, you go hear everybody, and then you go turn around, they're going to be hitting you up. They're going to be asking where you from. They're going to be acting like they're your enemies. They're going to be doing all that. You're going to turn around and say your head probably 1,000 times before you wipe the table. Yeah, when you're in Truman, you work in the kitchen. So what we used to do is you have an enemy. And then when that unit come in, you might say, okay, he's 6 people down. Because when you come get your food, it just pops out a hole. You don't see who's serving your food. Your food's already all on the tray, and it pops out the hole. You grab it, and you go sit fill in the rolls and sit down and eat. So people used to be like, oh, my enemy's number 5. Let me know when you see him coming closer. They'll count that 5th tray. They'll spit in it. They'll put bleach in it, and they'll mix it all up with the food and make sure that he gets that plate. And he don't even know that people are doing it. That's how bad Nellis was.
Damn.
It was terrible. People did that all the time. I used to see people put loogies. I used to be like, wow. Bleach. Anything you can put that was nasty. Mop objects on noodles days and mix it in. Just do all the type of shit. But you go there, you go to Truman, and you go through the little gang class, and they'll tell you what units, who's on here, and what's going on. And if you fight, you'll get 6 months added on to your time. Because it was called time bomb. They called Nellis a time bomb school. They was giving you 6 months left and right. But they got a thing called I stayed on Truman for like a week. Then they shot me to an all-crip unit, basically, called Cleveland. And back then, I mean, for years, Cleveland always been a crip unit. There was never too many Bloods over there. But I had a homie from Sacramento named D-Love. He was from Old Park. But I don't know how he got all the way down south. But they sent him down there. And we was there together for like a month. And then one day, I'm in the school area. And I had a homie named Lil Sheik. He was on the lockdown unit from neighborhood Piru out of Inglewood. And he was like, hey, MoBill. He called me on line movement in school. And he's like, hey, I know you over there by yourself. I'm about to be getting off lockdown. They already told me I'm coming to Cleveland. I was like, oh, hell yeah. Because D-Love had just left. They sent him back up north. So he'd been there for like a year and a half. But by the time I got there with him, he was only there for like a month and a half. And then they shipped him back up north. So I was there for a few weeks by myself. So when she got there, it got kind of better because we was getting some establishment. They got these things called the metal tables. And if you sat at the metal table, that was basically like Buster, Levi, you ain't shit type shit. And in the Bloods, being I was by myself, we didn't have no table. We didn't have no chairs. We played in the South back chairs. Like you fill in the rows and they got these little Cadillac chairs that everybody, like my homeboy sits at this chair, he sits at this chair. So when I got there was no extra chairs. So I started to sit at the table for like a week, maybe 2. And then she got over there and we got some chairs and we started establishing our little area because the homie B-Rack came from Inglewood NHP and then one other homie came. So we ended up getting like 4 Bloods right there and we started getting some establishment. But it was never really no Crip and Blood problem like that on Cleveland. When I first got over there, I had like 2 tattoos. And once a Waterfront Piru with a big old CK number 1 under it. And my boy, he from Spooktown, named Lil Reno. He had called me over there by his chair. And he was like, what's that say on your arm? I was like, Waterfront Piru. And he said, what's that right there? I said, CK. And he tested me. And he's like, what that stand for? And if you didn't have no heart, you wanted to go to repeat it. You know what I mean? I was like, it stands for Crab Killer. And he started laughing. He was like, all right, I was just trying to see if you was going, basically back there and stand on what you were saying. You know what I mean? So I was just telling him that's what it stands for. And then he was like, all right. But Cleveland was cool. I had a homie named Twin that was in the next unit, Roosevelt, the Samoan homie. He ended up going there. So I had another homie that was a Mexican from the hood at the time named Donut. He was there. And then the homie Peanut from Carson. Because anything that's like Carson or Wilmington, I consider it the same. Because we all down there went to school together, know each other. You know what I mean? So it's down there like 2 cities in one with me. So, and then my homie Sleep from Cabbage Patch was there. My homie One Shot from Scottsdale Pop was there. So it was like 5, 6 homies from our area there. And then I had an enemy there, but he was on lockdown, which was Lil Devil from 190. And then I had an enemy named Lil Blue from Dodge City. He was there too, but he was on a lockup unit, so we barely even seen each other. But my little fights I had and all that little stuff didn't really come with enemies. It just came from like inner house unit, you know what I mean, fighting over the microwave, fighting because Like they'll drop you levi, like little shit. Like you ever heard that the levi word?
Yeah, of course. That's like a derogatory word. Yeah.
Like so we used to run lockers in Nellis. So as soon as you find out someone got dropped levi, you be like, I'm trying to get in his locker before anybody else get in it. Because if he throw a fuck and say fuck your dad, whatever, his fuck really don't count because he's a levi. You know what I mean? So back then, people used to run your lockers and try to test you and shit, see if you go throw a fuck and stand on it. You know why? Nellis had a lot of mind games where everybody's trying to manipulate each other, and you know, it was weird, man. It was weird. But they had a school area, right? The school area is where you catch everybody at. There's a thing called the bend, and then when you hit that bend, there's no police back there. It's probably like a little blind area. Because Nellis, let me try to run it back. Nellis is like a real school. You have first, second period, third period, go back to your unit to eat, and then you come back for fourth or fifth period. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And when the bell rings, you get up out your classroom and you walk. Everybody got to walk the same way on the line, but you can just bell deep. You know what I mean? And you got 5 minutes to get to your class like a real school. So everybody used to try to catch. You'll see all the little, whoever had enemies, they'll catch each other on this thing called the bend, and they'll be squabbling up. You see the most fights you'll see ever, right there. That's for the people who cared, who wasn't trying to catch no time. You know what I mean? Wasn't trying to get caught, because if you got caught, you was getting time back then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you there when Wack 100 was there?
Yeah, that's my dog. Okay. Yeah. He was there. Wack only did like he down there. I think he maxed out right there. He only had like 2 years when he came, or like a year and a half, and he was on the unit called Roosevelt. And him and my homie from out here, my Samoan homie twin, they was road dogs. They was work out together, do everything together. And me and Wack used to be in the school area pressing shit. You know what I mean? And one thing, let me tell you about Wack, man. That a lot of people don't. It ain't no dick riding, it ain't none of that. Wack always been the way he is right now. He always been like that. Like when we was in YA, he always yelled, always was aggressive. When he spoke, he's boisterous, and he be ready to get down. Like, you know what I mean? He a YA baby like me. That's like when we get forward and we get to the pen. I'm a YA baby. We don't give a, like at a certain point in your life, you don't care. You could go back to a YA baby quick, and that means you'll turn up and you don't care. It is what it is. You know what I mean? But a lot of times, you know, I don't know if it ain't entertainment. That nigga he really talk shit, and he really stand on the shit. I was there with him in Nellis. You know what I mean? He was one of the biggest homies there at a young age. For the power rules in the blood. You know what I mean? It was him, as far as big homie T-Bone from BNG, my homie Twin 3, and Lil Cabrillo from Stick to His Brown. There was like the people that had some size on them that was big for young niggas. And then Wack, nobody wanted no problems with Wack at all. So we was there together. He was on Roosevelt. I think your boy said he was on Adams, but he was on Tyler. He ended up going to Tyler. That's a little unit you got. It's like you got to march, like a military type unit. You said you do your last 30 days there. So he had so much commissary, he had left it all to my Samoan homie Twin. And then Twin couldn't fit all that shit in his cell, so he gave most of that shit to me. You know what I mean? Yeah, but Wack was there, and he had the same wife back then too. The girl he went down, that she was coming then. He been with her since then.
Wow.
Yeah, I ain't never seen nobody do no shit like that besides Hispanics. I be saying Hispanics, they be with their girl for like 30 years. I be in prison on the 4 yard. I be like, damn, your girl been holding it down for years. How she was with him, she held him down. I could say that.
That's what's up.
But yeah, Wack was there though, and he was on go mode. Let me say that. He wasn't sitting there just doing his time. He was on go mode with the rest of it.
I'm 45 years old, 45 and I'm 31, and I'm tired of you. And you the older generation than me, and I am too. And we've been standing around as the older ones, taking all this bullshit. Always hoping for a kumbaya fucking y'all. Come here. Always standing around for a kumbaya. Ain't nobody coming to protect us. We gotta start our own fucking life.
It's like the message has been lost. How much money does a black life cost? Every time we kill another brother, we keeping people employed who profit when we kill another. How can we make a change instead of pointing at others for the blame? Shit, let's put some gasoline on the flame and burn this bitch down if they don't hear what we saying. Better be strapped for the peace. They talking about defunding police. Gun stores sold out for 6 weeks. I'm smelling something in the air and it reeks. Black lives matter all the time, not just when one of them kills one of our kind. Cause I don't ever see Al Sharpton speaking when Chicago has 30 murders in 1 week.